My name is Lisa. I am 23 years old. I live in a small town in the middle of the United States. It's quiet here. There are only a few shops, one school, and a lot of trees. I live with my mom and work at a small diner on Main Street. Life is simple and sometimes a little lonely. When I was a child, I had a dream. It wasn't big. I didn't want a mansion or a lot of money. I wanted love. I wanted to marry a kind man. I wanted to live in a little house with a small garden. I wanted 2 kids and a dog. That was enough for me. A happy, safe, quiet life. I watched my parents for many years. My dad left us when I was 10. He never came back. My mom worked hard to raise me. She cleaned houses, cooked for people, and sometimes cried at night. But she was strong. She always told me, don't choose someone who only says they love you. Choose someone who shows it. I listened to her. I told myself I would wait for someone good, someone who didn't leave. One summer night, I went to a local music event at the park. It was warm, and the sky was full of stars. A small band was playing. People were eating, talking, laughing. That's when I saw him, Josh. He was standing near the food truck, holding a soda. He had short, dark hair and a kind smile. I don't know why, but he smiled at me. I smiled back. A few minutes later, he came over and said, "Hi, I'm Josh. Do you like music?" We talked for a while. He was easy to talk to. He asked about my job, my favorite songs, my life. He didn't try to be cool or funny. He was just real. That night, he asked for my number. I gave it to him. The next morning, he sent a message. "Good morning, Lisa. Want to grab coffee today?" I smiled at my phone for a long time. I said yes. We met that afternoon. We talked for hours. He told me he worked at a hardware store. He liked fixing things and watching old movies. I liked his laugh. It was soft but full. After that, we started seeing each other often. He brought me flowers. He helped me carry groceries. He never made me feel small. I started to think, maybe this is it. Maybe he is the one I was waiting for. At night, I looked at the stars outside my window. I smiled and whispered to myself, this is how love begins. Josh and I grew closer with every passing week. He would come by the diner during my shift and sit at the counter just to see me. He always ordered the same thing, black coffee and a slice of apple pie. He said it wasn't about the food. "I just like being near you." He'd smile. We didn't do anything fancy. We took walks by the lake. We watched movies on my mum's old TV. Sometimes he would bring popcorn, and we'd sit under a blanket, laughing at silly comedies or crying at sad ones. I felt safe with him. I felt seen. He met my mom after the 2nd month. I was nervous, but it went better than I expected. She asked him tough questions, like, "What are your plans?" And, "Do you treat my daughter right?" He answered with honesty. He told her he didn't have much money, but he had a good heart. My mom nodded. That was enough for her. And for me. One day, he fixed the broken sink in our kitchen without even being asked. Another time, he brought soup when I was sick. He didn't just talk about love. He showed it. That's when I knew. I had never felt this kind of care before. After 6 months, we were sitting by the lake on a cool evening. The sky was pink and gold. I looked at him and said softly, "I love you, Josh." He looked at me with those warm brown eyes and said, "I love you too, Lisa. More than you know." I believed him. Life wasn't perfect, but it felt full. I still worked at the diner, and he still worked long hours at the store. We didn't have much, but when we were together, I didn't care. We dreamed about the future sometimes. He said, "One day I want to build you a little house with a porch. You can have all the flowers you want." I smiled at the thought. It sounded like the dream I had since I was a little girl. But dreams can change fast. One morning I felt strange. My body was tired, and I felt sick when I smelled coffee. I thought it was just stress or a cold, but the feeling didn't go away. My friend at the diner, Mia, looked at me and said, "Girl, I think you need to take a test." I went to the pharmacy that night. I bought a pregnancy test and took it in the bathroom with shaking hands. I waited. My heart was loud in my ears. Then I looked at the test. 2 pink lines. I sat down on the floor. I didn't know what to feel. I touched my belly. "Is there really a baby inside me?" I whispered. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there for a long time, thinking everything is about to change. That night, I went to see Josh. My hands were shaking the whole walk to his place. I had no plan. I just knew I had to tell him. I knocked on his door. He opened it and smiled, like always. "Hey, beautiful," he said. I didn't smile back. I stepped inside. My heart was racing. I sat on the edge of his couch and looked at him. "Josh," I said, "I have to tell you something." He looked a little worried. "What's wrong?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." There was silence, long silence. He blinked. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said quietly. I took the test, twice. He stood up and walked to the window. He stared outside like he was trying to escape. I waited. I was scared of what he might say, or not say. Then, finally he spoke. "This is not a good time, Lisa." My stomach dropped. I felt cold. He turned around but didn't come closer. "I'm not ready for this. I don't have money. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life." I stood up. "But we love each other," I said. My voice was small, like a whisper. He didn't answer. That night, he didn't hold me. He didn't kiss me. He barely looked at me. I couldn't sleep. I kept hoping he'd say something, anything, but he stayed quiet. In the morning, he left, early. "I'll call you later," he said. But he didn't. Days passed, then a week. I texted him. I called him. No answer. I sat in my room, staring at my phone, willing it to ring. Nothing. Finally, after 2 weeks, I went to his apartment. I knocked. No one opened the door. I knew he was inside. I could hear the TV. I knocked harder. Still, nothing. That night, I sent one last message. "Please, just tell me the truth. Are you leaving me?" A few minutes later, I got a reply. "I can't do this. I'm sorry." That was the last thing he ever said to me. I sat on my bed and cried. I cried like I had never cried before. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was terrified. I was going to be a mother, and I was going to do it alone. I told my mom. She looked at me, then hugged me tight. She cried with me. My dad didn't say much, but he said, "We'll figure it out." I moved back home. I quit my job at the diner. I couldn't work full shifts anymore. My body felt tired all the time. My belly grew a little each week. One day at the doctor's office, I heard the baby's heartbeat. It was fast and strong. I cried again, but this time it wasn't just pain. It was love, real love. Josh had left me with nothing, but inside me, I was growing something, someone, hope. The days passed slowly, and my belly grew round. Some mornings I woke up sick. Other mornings I just lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. But no matter how I felt, life kept moving. The baby inside me was growing, and I had to keep going too. My mom helped me a lot. She made me warm meals. She rubbed my back when it hurt. She reminded me to drink water and rest. My dad stayed quiet, like always. But he would ask, "How's the baby?" And sometimes he'd bring home little things. A soft blanket, baby socks. He didn't say much, but I knew he cared in his own way. At night, I would sit in my room and talk to the baby. I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, but I talked anyway. I don't know if I'll be a good mom, I whispered one night. But I promised to try. I promised to stay. I worked part-time at the diner again for a few weeks, but it got too hard. My back hurt all the time, and I was always tired. I saved every little bit of money I could. My mom said not to worry, but I did. I wanted to buy diapers, clothes, and a small crib. I didn't want to depend on anyone, not even her. Then one night, the pain started. It was sharp and deep, like nothing I had ever felt. My mom rushed me to the hospital. The nurse smiled at me gently and said, "It's time." I was scared. I held my mom's hand tightly. She wiped my forehead and whispered, "You can do this, Lisa." Hours passed. The pain was strong. I cried. I screamed. I said I couldn't do it, but the nurse kept saying, "You're almost there." And finally, I heard it. A small, soft cry. "It's a boy," the nurse said. She placed him in my arms. He was tiny. His skin was soft. His eyes were closed, and he made little sounds as he moved. I looked at him and felt something new, something powerful. I said, "Hello, baby. I'm your mom." I named him Eli. It means strong, in a language I once read about. I wanted him to have a name that reminded him he could survive anything, just like I had. We stayed in the hospital for 2 days. I didn't sleep much, but I didn't care. I just watched him. I touched his little fingers. I kissed his forehead over and over. Then we went home. It was strange at first. The house felt different. Everything was quiet, but my heart was full of sound. His breathing, his cries, his tiny hiccups. At night, I held him close and whispered, "You're not alone. I'm here." Josh never came. He didn't call. He didn't ask. But I didn't cry for him anymore. I had Eli now, and he was enough. Life with a newborn is hard. No one can prepare you for it. Some nights, Eli cried for hours. I walked the floor, bouncing him in my arms, whispering songs, even when my legs were shaking from tiredness. I slept in short moments, sometimes with my clothes still on. I forgot what rest felt like. But every time I looked at his little face, I knew why I was doing it. My mom helped when she could, but she had work too. My dad watched Eli once in a while. He never said it, but I could see it in his eyes. He was proud of me, quietly proud. The house was small, and money was tight. I used second-hand baby clothes. I learned to cook cheap but healthy meals. I made a list of every cent I spent. Diapers, wipes, milk. There was no room for extras, not even for myself. I wore the same jeans every day. I didn't care about new shoes, or makeup, or even birthdays. All I cared about was making sure Eli had what he needed. I didn't hear from Josh, not once. Sometimes I thought I saw him in town. Once, I saw a man who looked like him at the gas station. My heart jumped, but it wasn't him. Even if it was, I knew what I'd do now. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't beg. I'd walk away. Because now I understood what love really meant. Love isn't just flowers, or kisses, or pretty words. Love is staying. Love is waking up at 3 a.m. because your baby is hungry. Love is giving up sleep, money, comfort, everything, because someone else depends on you. One evening, I was sitting on the couch feeding Eli. The TV was off. The room was quiet. The only sound was his little breaths. I looked at him and whispered, "I don't have much, but I have you, and you have me. We're going to be okay." He looked up at me, and for the first time, he smiled. My heart melted. Tears filled my eyes. That smile, That one little smile gave me more strength than any hug, any paycheck, any promise. He didn't know what I had lost. He didn't know how many nights I cried alone, but he smiled at me, and in that moment, I felt seen. I felt loved. I went back to work when Eli was 5 months old. My mom watched him during my shifts. Leaving him was hard. Every part of me wanted to stay with him all day, but we needed the money. At the diner, I smiled at customers, poured coffee and carried plates. My feet ached. My back hurt. But I did it with a full heart. When I came home, Eli would be waiting. His arms would wave when he saw me. He'd make happy baby noises. I'd scoop him up, kiss his soft cheek, and say, "Mommy's home." One night, after putting him to sleep, I sat alone in the kitchen. I drank cold tea and stared at the wall. I was exhausted, but then I looked at the baby monitor. Eli was sleeping, peaceful and warm, and I smiled. Because even though life was heavy, even though I had been left behind, I was still standing. And I was not broken. I was a mother, and I was enough. As Eli grew, our days became more structured. Mornings were filled with small routines, changing his diaper, warming his bottle, singing the same silly song that always made him laugh. Every smile, every new sound he made was like a light switching on in my world. He was crawling now, reaching for things, exploring. It scared me sometimes. How fast he was growing. I blinked, and he was already trying to stand on wobbly legs. But no matter how tired I was, no matter how many bills were stacked on the table, Eli kept me grounded. My friends from school weren't around much anymore. They were in college or working in other cities. Some of them posted photos online. Parties, beach trips, new boyfriends. I didn't post anything. I didn't have time. And honestly, I didn't have the words. It wasn't jealousy I felt. It was something else. Distance. Like they were living on a different planet, a world I couldn't visit. I stayed home most nights. I watched cartoons with Eli. I learned every character in his favorite shows. I read him the same book 10 times in one night because it made him giggle. And when he was asleep, I cleaned, planned meals, or sat in the dark with a warm cup of tea. There were quiet moments, those in-between spaces when the world felt far away. I missed touch. Not just romance, though I missed that too, but just simple connection. A hug, a hand on my shoulder, someone asking, "Are you okay?" and really meaning it. But I kept going. One day, I saw Josh in town. It had been over a year. I was pushing Eli in his stroller. He was holding a new woman's hand. She had long dark hair and bright red nails. She looked nothing like me. Josh glanced at me for half a second, then looked away like I was a stranger. He didn't ask about Eli. He didn't even say hello. My chest felt tight, but I didn't cry. I just looked down at my son, who was chewing on his toy bus, happy and unaware. I leaned over and kissed his forehead. "You don't need him," I whispered. That evening, I made a promise in my heart. I would never let Eli feel like he was missing something. I would love him enough for two. A few weeks later, I received a letter from the housing office. We were approved for a small apartment. Just 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen, but it was ours. No more sleeping in my childhood room. No more sharing space. My parents helped me pack. We folded Eli's little clothes and placed his stuffed animals in boxes. My dad drove us to the new flat. The building was old, but clean. The walls were pale yellow. It smelled like fresh paint. I set up Eli's crib next to my bed. I placed a picture of us on the nightstand. That night, we ate on the floor, just toast and soup, but it felt special. Eli laughed and threw his spoon on the floor. I picked it up and smiled. This is our home now. I said. In our new place, the silence was louder, but it was peaceful. I cooked simple meals, sang lullabies, and learned how to stretch every dollar. I didn't have much, but I made every corner feel warm. One afternoon at the grocery store, a woman behind me in line said, "You're doing a good job." I turned around surprised. "What?" She nodded at Eli, who was reaching for a banana. "You're doing a good job. I can tell." I smiled and thanked her, but my eyes filled with tears on the drive home. Kind words stick to you when life is hard. That night, I sat on the couch, watching Eli sleep through the monitor. I whispered to myself, "You're tired, but you're doing this, and that's enough." I had no partner. I had no promises. I had no savings, but I had peace, and I had a son who laughed when I tickled his belly, and sometimes, in the quiet, I had hope. Time passed quickly. Eli turned 3, and then 4. Each year, he grew taller, stronger, and more curious. He asked endless questions. Why is the sky blue? Where do birds go at night? Can we get a dog? I answered every question with love. Even when I was tired, he made friends at daycare. He liked a girl named Lucy because she always shared her snacks. One day, he came home and said, "Lucy has a big dog named Bingo. Can we get a dog too?" I laughed and said, "Maybe one day." I was working more hours now. My boss at the diner gave me extra shifts. I said yes to everything. I wanted to save money, not just to survive, but to give Eli more books, more clothes, more joy. Some days I came home late. My mum watched Eli when she could. He always ran to me when I walked through the door. "Mommy," he would shout, wrapping his arms around my legs. That one hug made the whole day worth it. One night after my mum left, I was washing dishes when Eli came to the kitchen. He looked serious. "Mom?" he asked softly. "Yes, baby. Do I have a dad?" The plate in my hand slipped a little. I put it down and turned off the water. I dried my hands and sat beside him on the couch. "Why do you ask?" I said gently. He looked down at his hands. "At school, my friend said her dad picks her up sometimes. She asked if my dad picks me up too." I swallowed hard. "You do have a dad," I said slowly. "But he's not part of our life. He made a choice not to stay." Eli looked up at me, his eyes full of questions. Did he not want me? I shook my head and pulled him into my lap. "No, baby. He made a choice that had nothing to do with you. Some people aren't ready to be parents, but that doesn't mean you're not special. You are so, so special." He leaned his head on my chest. "I have you," he said. My throat tightened. I kissed the top of his head. "Yes," I whispered. "You have me, and I will never leave." Later that night, after I put him to bed, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea. I didn't cry loudly, just a few quiet tears. Because even though I was strong, I was still human. The next day at school, one of the teachers stopped me. She was young, kind, and always smiling. "I just wanted to say," she began, "Eli is doing really well. He's kind, curious, and full of joy." I smiled. "Thank you. That means a lot." She looked at me for a moment and said, "You're doing a really good job. He's a happy boy." Her words stayed in my heart all day. Maybe I didn't have a partner. Maybe I didn't have the perfect house or the most money, but I had raised a child who smiled with his whole heart. I had created peace in the middle of pain. Eli started school that year. On the first day, he wore a tiny uniform and carried a backpack with stars on it. He held my hand tightly as we walked into the building. "Will you wait for me, Mommy?" he asked. I knelt down and kissed his cheek. "Always," I said. He smiled and walked into his classroom. He looked back once and waved. I waved back and sat on a bench outside the school. I let the tears fall, not from sadness, but from pride. We had made it. Not perfectly, not easily, but we had made it, and as I walked home that morning, I held my head high, because I had been left with nothing but hope, and I turned that hope into a beautiful life.